My name isn't on the house deed. I whispered it like I didn't quite believe it myself, my hands shaking as I held the copy of the property record the bank rep had just printed. I had paid over $400,000 toward the down payment, mortgage, renovations, new appliances, security cameras, and yet the house was legally owned by my boyfriend's mother. Not Connor, not me. His mother, Linda Reed. I remember turning to Connor once the shock started to fade from my chest. "Why is your mom's name on it?" I asked, trying to keep my voice calm. "I thought this was our house." He shrugged, completely unfazed. "You said I should be the one to handle the loan, right? You never said anything about the title. Besides, my mom has more experience with these things. She just helped me with the paperwork. It's all the same." No, it's not. It's not the same at all. Before I dive into my story, I'd love to know where you're watching from. Drop your location in the comments below, and don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button. My name is Jenna Morales. I'm 32, a staff accountant for a tech firm in Pasadena, California. I've been on my own since I was 18. I budget carefully, save aggressively, and up until now, I thought I was pretty good at spotting red flags. Connor is a structural engineer. We've been together for 5 years and living together for 3. I thought he was the one, the man I could build a life with, a home, a future, a family. So when he suggested we start looking for a house together, I said yes without hesitation. We toured places in Burbank, Highland Park, Altadena, until we found it. A cozy 3-bedroom in Eagle Rock with hardwood floors, an open kitchen, and a backyard just big enough for a dog, some planter beds, and maybe one day a swing set. The listing price? $599,000. It was a stretch, but I had been saving for years. I wired over a $60,000 down payment, nearly all my savings, plus a small gift from my parents. When I asked about being on the deed, Connor gave me a quick answer. "Let's keep it simple. My credit score's higher, and it's easier with just one borrower. We'll fix it after we get married." I nodded. I wanted to believe him. I loved him. I trusted him. The day we got the keys, he carried me across the threshold, like in the movies. "Welcome home," he whispered. I cried happy tears. I didn't know I had just stepped into a home that legally wasn't mine. Over the next 3 months, I paid for everything: utilities, landscaping, property taxes, kitchen upgrades, and a full HVAC replacement, all from my personal account. Connor promised he'd settle up later, after a big project wrapped up at work. Then came the housewarming party. That was when the cracks started to show. Connor's mom, Linda, stood in the living room holding a glass of Cabernet, surrounded by their extended family. Her voice rang loud and proud. "I'm just so happy I could share my investment property with these two while they figure things out." I was walking out from the kitchen with a tray of pastries when I heard her. "Investment property?" A few of Connor's aunts clinked glasses and nodded. "Linda, this house is gorgeous. Can't believe you're letting the kids stay here." I stood there, frozen, listening to people compliment her crown molding, her backyard, her marble countertops. No one said it was our home. No one asked how I liked living there. Connor didn't even correct them. I felt invisible, like a glorified tenant in the house I'd spent everything to build. That night, I stayed up until 3 a.m. I logged into the county's property records database. I entered the address. And there it was. Owner: Linda M. Reed. My name wasn't there. Not even as co-owner, trustee, joint tenant. I was nothing. No rights, no voice. Just a woman who had poured every penny and every dream into a house she didn't legally exist in. I felt stupid, ashamed, humiliated. Connor slept soundly next to me while I stared at the ceiling, wondering, why did he do this? Was it his idea or hers? If I disappeared tomorrow, would they just keep the house like I never existed? I didn't have the answers yet, but I knew one thing for sure. I needed a lawyer. We threw the housewarming party on a Saturday in late April. The kind of perfect, sunny day Southern California is famous for. Blue skies, jasmine blooming in the breeze, everything polished and presentable. I spent the whole morning prepping, arranging platters, icing cupcakes, fluffing throw pillows like I was about to be featured on HGTV. Connor was outside setting up chairs and folding tables. His mom arrived early, of course. She breezed in like she owned the place. Because, well, she technically did. Linda Reed wore a crisp, white linen blouse and gold hoop earrings and walked through the living room inspecting everything like she was doing a final walkthrough with her realtor. "Oh, good. You moved the rug," she said to Connor, nodding at the living room. "I told you it made the space feel wider." She didn't look at me when she said it, didn't say hi or thank you or anything that acknowledged I'd spent the last 4 hours scrubbing the floors and cutting fruit. That was the moment I realized I was a guest in my own home. Guests started arriving, friends from work, Connor's cousins, neighbors from down the street, and I swear every single one of them greeted Linda like the host. She beamed at their compliments. "Linda, this house is incredible. You really have an eye for space. Can't believe you were able to get a place like this in this market." And each time she'd smile and say some version of, "Oh, I just wanted a place the kids could enjoy while they figured things out." I knew it would be a smart investment, especially with how the market's shifting. Yes, we closed just in time. It's already appreciated by nearly 7%. I stood in the kitchen doorway watching her field questions about mortgage rates and property taxes, acting like I didn't exist. When one of Connor's coworkers asked how we split expenses, Connor answered, "Jenna handles a lot of the day-to-day stuff, groceries, utilities, making it feel like home." Making it feel like home? I paid for the refrigerator, the security system, the water heater, the tile backsplash she just took credit for. That night, I overheard Linda talking to one of her sisters in the hallway near the bathroom. She didn't lower her voice. "She's sweet, but Jenna's not exactly long-term material. Honestly, I'm just glad Connor's name isn't on the deed either. He's still figuring things out." Wait, what? That was the moment it hit me. Connor's name isn't on the deed either, only Linda's. Not just for the mortgage like he'd claimed, not temporary until we fixed the credit stuff. Connor hadn't put the house in his name. He had put it in hers. No mention of me, no legal tie to either of them. I stood in the hallway, heart pounding in my ears, my hand tightening around the wine glass I hadn't even touched. I felt like I'd swallowed something jagged. I confronted Connor that night. When everyone had left, I cornered him in the kitchen as he loaded the dishwasher. "Why didn't you put your name on the house?" I asked, keeping my voice low, even though I wanted to scream. He barely looked up. "What are you talking about?" "I overheard your mom. You said you were taking the mortgage under your name, but she said neither of our names are on the deed, just hers. Is that true?" He exhaled, shut the dishwasher a little too hard. "Okay, yes, it's just on her name right now, but it's not a big deal." "Not a big deal?" I stared at him. "I've wired over $400,000 into a house I don't even own, Connor." "It's our house," he said defensively. "It doesn't matter what name is on the paper." "Then why not put my name on it?" I snapped. "Or yours, or both." He paused, and when he answered, I swear my stomach dropped. "She's helping us out. If anything happens, if we break up, she just doesn't want things to get messy." There it was, the quiet truth. His mom had protected herself and her son from me. They didn't see me as a partner. They saw me as a liability. I didn't say another word. I just walked past him, up the stairs, and locked myself in the bathroom. I stared at my reflection for a long time. I looked like a fool. I had trusted him, believed him, invested in him, built a home with someone who hadn't even given me the courtesy of being on the deed. And it got worse. A week later, I started going through the home insurance documents. I noticed something odd about the mortgage structure. Some of the statements weren't addressed to Connor at all. They were addressed to Linda. The mailing address was her house in Glendale. I went to the county assessor's office in person to request the full title file. And that's when I learned. 3 days after we moved in, Linda had taken out a home equity line of credit on our house for $150,000. I hadn't signed anything. I wasn't notified. I didn't even know it was possible. But apparently, since the property was entirely in her name, she could do whatever she wanted. And she did. That night, I sat at the kitchen table while Connor watched TV in the next room. I stared at the paperwork. My hands were trembling. I had been so careful in my whole life, so practical, so smart. And yet somehow I had become the woman who bought a house she didn't own with a man who never planned to protect me. I looked over at Connor, laughing at something on screen. He didn't even realize I had changed. But I had. Because now I had proof. Now I had motive. And now I was ready.
I didn't say anything to Connor that night. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I didn't throw the stack of documents across the living room like I wanted to. Instead, I folded them neatly, slipped them into a plain manila envelope, and placed them in the bottom drawer of my desk, beneath a stack of old tax returns. Because now, I knew what I was dealing with. This wasn't a miscommunication. This wasn't an innocent oversight. This was a plan. One I had been excluded from entirely. And I wasn't about to confront it emotionally. I was going to approach it like an audit. I started quietly collecting receipts. Bank transfers, Zelle logs, contractor invoices, Home Depot receipts, Venmo screenshots, all the little things I'd paid for over the last 6 months. Because when you add up the plumbing repair, the backyard pavers, the smart thermostat, the roof inspection, and the new washer-dryer set, it's not small anymore. It's documented proof of my financial contribution to a property I didn't legally own. One night while Connor was asleep, I emailed a friend of mine from college, Erin, now a real estate attorney based in LA. Subject: Can I talk to you quietly about a property issue? She replied within the hour. Come to my office, off the record. Bring everything. 3 days later, I sat in Erin's conference room with a folder full of shame and screenshots. She didn't interrupt me once as I explained the entire situation. When I was done, she leaned back in her chair, expression unreadable. Jenna, she said calmly, what you have here isn't just a mess. It's a case. I blinked. A case? As in legal action? As in a civil claim for unjust enrichment, possibly even quiet title or partition, depending on what route you want to take. She tapped the stack of papers. You've essentially invested in a property as if you were a co-owner. You weren't just helping out. You were funding the thing. I looked down. But I don't have a written agreement. I was stupid. No, you were trusting. which is exactly what people like Linda and Connor exploit. But luckily for you, courts look at behavior, not just signatures. She paused. You said the HELOC, the line of credit, was taken out in her name 3 days after you moved in. Yep, without telling me. $150,000. Erin shook her head. That's not just shady, that's leverage. Leverage. The word echoed in my mind for days. I had never thought of myself as someone who needed leverage. I always believed in transparency, in fairness, in good intentions. But this wasn't about feelings anymore. It was about protecting what I had built. And what I had built was being siphoned away under my feet. The next blow came in the form of an email from Linda herself. Yes, Linda. Subject line: clarifying expectations for the property. She had CC'd Connor, not me. In the body, she wrote, since the house is in my name and legally under my protection, I'd prefer we keep any permanent changes to a minimum. This includes any remodeling, landscaping, or additions that weren't cleared through me first. As we discussed, this is an investment property. I understand Jenna has taken initiative in furnishing and decorating, which is appreciated, but please remind her to run structural or financial decisions through the appropriate channels moving forward. The appropriate channels. She meant her. I sat at my desk, staring at the screen, my heart beating out of rhythm. I reread it twice, then a third time.
Connor hadn't replied. He didn't even forward it to me. Just let it sit there like it was normal, like his mom emailing rules about the house I paid for was just part of the deal. I walked downstairs, phone in hand. Did you read this? I asked, holding the screen up. Connor barely glanced at it. Yeah, she just wants to make sure no one's changing the house without checking. No one? I repeated. You mean me, right? She means me. He sighed. Can we not make this a thing? She's just trying to be protective. She has equity to think about. I have cash to think about, I snapped. I've put over $70,000 into this house, and she just called me a glorified interior decorator? He stood up. You're overreacting. You're acting like this is an attack. I'm acting like someone who just realized they were never part of the plan. He didn't respond. That silence, it told me everything. The next day, I called Erin back. What happens if I stop paying for anything? I asked. If I stop covering utilities, stop making repairs, just stop. Well, that'll create pressure, but it won't get your money back. And if I demand my money back? You can, but you need to be ready to back it up in court. I took a breath. And if I want my name on the house? She paused. Then you're going to have to force the issue, either by negotiating or by filing. If they won't make it right voluntarily, we file for equitable interest. Equitable interest. I didn't know what was more painful, having to ask for my own place in the home I built, or realizing that they might actually fight me over it. I started preparing that night. I kept smiling at Connor, kept cooking, kept saying, sure, babe, when he asked me to run errands or help find a contractor for the side fence. But in the background, I was compiling everything. Itemized expenses, receipts, wire transfers, photos of each stage of renovation, screenshots of every credit card statement, every Zelle, every Venmo. Because I wasn't just building a case anymore. I was building a way out. And the more I looked at that spreadsheet, the more one number stood out. $417,932.74. That's how much I had spent on a house that didn't have my name anywhere on it. Not anymore.
3 weeks later, I gave Connor an ultimatum. We were in the kitchen, me chopping parsley, him scrolling through his phone, completely unaware that the woman next to him was preparing to detonate 5 years of silence. I placed the knife down carefully. I want my name on the house. He didn't even look up. What? I want my name added to the deed. Not later, not after we get married, now. That got his attention. Connor set his phone down, blinked like I just suggested we move to Alaska. Where is this coming from? I didn't smile. I didn't soften. It's coming from the fact that I've paid for 70% of this house, and I'm not going to keep investing in something I don't legally own. He ran a hand through his hair, stalling. Jenna, come on. You know how complicated that gets. We'd need to file a quitclaim deed, maybe refinance the mortgage, and with the rates right now, I already talked to an attorney. His jaw tightened. You what? 3 weeks ago. And she said if you and Linda refuse to add me to the title, I have grounds to sue for equitable interest, civil court. We can handle it privately, or we can go legal. Your call. He stood there like I had just slapped him across the face. You're threatening me? He asked, his voice low. No, I replied calmly. I'm drawing a boundary. You can either fix this, or I can. He didn't answer. He just turned, walked into the living room, and left me standing at the kitchen counter. That night, I didn't sleep. Connor avoided me for 2 days, claiming work stress, staying out late, retreating into his office when I tried to talk. But I already made my decision. If he wasn't going to fix it, I would. And that meant the next step. Aaron and I filed the papers on a Wednesday morning, a formal petition for equitable interest in the property, detailing the financial contributions I had made, the upgrades and repairs I funded, and the fact that I had acted as a co-owner in every way except legally. I included everything: dates, amounts, screenshots. We served Linda at her address in Glendale that Friday. 2 hours later, she called me. Jenna, she said, skipping any greeting, what on earth do you think you're doing? I was in my car, parked outside Trader Joe's, holding a frozen bag of cauliflower gnocchi in one hand and my phone in the other. I'm protecting my investment, I said. This is absurd. You're just Connor's girlfriend. Girlfriend who paid for the roof and the plumbing and the goddamn mortgage. So yeah, I guess I'm also the girlfriend who's suing. You'll ruin everything, she hissed. Funny, I said, putting the gnocchi back in the freezer bag. That's what it felt like when I found out you took out a $150K HELOC behind my back. Silence. Then, flatly, Connor never saw the final paperwork. He didn't know I was taking out the line of credit. I told him I was moving funds around. It wasn't supposed to go through that soon. My blood went cold. I suddenly felt a new question bloom in the back of my mind. Was Connor being used too? But before I could ask, she spoke again. You need to drop this, Jenna. It's not going to end well. I hung up without replying. That night, Connor came home late. I was already in bed, lights off. He slid in beside me, silent, then whispered, You served my mother. I didn't move. Yes. She's furious. She should be. She stole from me. He was quiet for a long time. Then he asked, Do you hate me? I rolled onto my back, staring up at the ceiling. I don't know, I said truthfully, but I don't trust you anymore, and that's worse. 2 weeks later, Linda's lawyer responded. They offered me a settlement, $30,000, in exchange for dropping the claim and signing a non-disclosure agreement. Erin laughed when she read the letter. They're terrified this goes to court. She knows you have receipts, literally. We counted with $230,000 or full co-ownership plus reimbursement for legal fees. They didn't respond for 5 days. Then, something unexpected happened.
Connor texted me from a separate number. Can we meet? Not at the house, just you and me. He picked a neutral coffee shop in Pasadena. I arrived first, heart hammering. He walked in looking like a different person, pale, exhausted, like a man who had realized too late that he'd bet on the wrong side. He didn't know about the loan, he said, sitting down. I swear to you, I said nothing. I should have put your name on the house from the start. I let her control too much. I let everything slide. You stood there while I was erased from my own life. You let it happen. I know. He swallowed hard. I'm signing the quitclaim deed, transferring half the property to you. I've already talked to her. Told her I'm done playing by her rules. My breath caught. She's livid, but I don't care anymore. I'm sorry, Jenna. I'm sorry it took legal threats for me to see how badly I've screwed this up. I sat back, numb. I didn't expect it. I didn't even know if I wanted the house anymore. But I knew one thing. I wanted to win. Not for revenge, for justice. The next day, Aaron received the revised documents. Quitclaim deed, property title update, formal agreement of repayment for 60% of my total investment spread over 18 months. Legally binding. Ironclad. Connor asked me if I wanted to stay in the house. I looked around, the quiet kitchen, the fireplace we installed together, the herb garden I planted with my bare hands. No, I said. You stay. He blinked. Where will you go? I smiled faintly. Somewhere with my name on the mailbox. The U-Haul pulled up on a Sunday morning, exactly 4 months to the day since I learned I didn't own the house I had paid for. I didn't pack in a frenzy. There were no slammed drawers, no broken picture frames, no scorched earth send-off. I moved with the quiet calm of someone who had already burned the bridges and built a better road. Connor wasn't home. He had gone to stay with a friend to give me space. I was grateful. I didn't want one last look or a goodbye hug. This wasn't heartbreak. It was closure. I labeled the boxes by room. Office, books. Kitchen, glassware. Bedroom, mine, not ours. As I sealed the last box, I looked around at the house that once held all my dreams and realized something strange. I didn't feel sad. I didn't feel angry anymore either. I felt free. The apartment I moved into was small but sunlit. It had hardwood floors that creaked and a fire escape where I placed a little pot of rosemary, my version of a fresh start. And best of all, the lease was in my name. Every single utility bill, mine. Every doormat, every dish, every key, mine. For the first time in a long time, I breathed without weight on my chest. But I didn't disappear. I was still in touch with Erin, and thanks to her, I wasn't just walking away, I was pushing forward. Because Linda's attorney didn't stop after the quitclaim deed. She tried to challenge it, filed a counter motion claiming Connor was coerced into signing, said the transfer was emotionally manipulated and that I exerted undue pressure. She tried to rescind the agreement after we had it notarized, filed, and certified. Erin called me the minute it hit the court record. You ready to go nuclear? She asked. I smiled. Let's remind them who they're dealing with. Our court date was scheduled for a Friday afternoon. Linda showed up in navy slacks and a pearl necklace, looking like every upscale PTA mom you've ever feared. Connor came too, slightly hunched, eyes on the floor like he wasn't sure whose side he was supposed to be on anymore. I showed up in a tailored gray blazer, heels that didn't flinch, and a portfolio of every receipt I saved for the past 18 months. When the judge asked if I had documentation of my contributions, I didn't answer. I slid the binder across the table. Line item by line item. $59,800 down payment. Wire receipt. $11,312 in plumbing and water line repairs. Contractor invoice. $5,440 in backyard landscaping. Venmo log. $2,987 for the smart home system. Amazon and Nest receipts. $2,160 in tax payments. Property account statements. 74 additional entries, all categorized, all time-stamped.
Linda's attorney looked like she had swallowed a lemon whole. The judge flipped through the binder, page after page. Then he looked up. "I see no reason to undo this agreement," he said firmly. "In fact, Miss Morales is entitled to far more than was initially awarded." He turned to their table. "Any further attempts to delay or obstruct enforcement of the quitclaim deed will be viewed as bad faith litigation. Is that clear?" Linda didn't respond. She just clenched her jaw. The gavel came down. I didn't just win. I shut the whole thing down. 3 days later, I got an email from Connor. Subject line: "I know you don't owe me anything." The message: "But I just want to say I was wrong. About all of it. About the house, about my mom, about how I handled things. I let you down. And if I were you, I wouldn't forgive me either. But I hope maybe someday you'll know I wasn't always that guy." I read it twice. Then I hit delete. I didn't need closure from him. He already gave me what I needed, proof that I was never safe with him. That was closure enough. I used part of the settlement to start something I never thought I'd do. I opened a separate account, labeled it Foundation in all caps. Not for a nonprofit, not for a business, for me. It's where I save now, every month. No one else's name on it, no shared logins, no hidden clauses, just mine. And one day, maybe a year from now, or 5, I'll buy a home. Not a house that someone lets me live in, not one I share ownership of with a man who flinches at commitment. My own. And when I do, I'll sign the deed. Not with the pen, but with everything I learned. Trust is not a substitute for protection. Love does not replace legality. And if someone asks you to build a home without giving you a key, they don't deserve your labor or your loyalty. I'll plant rosemary again. Only this time, it'll grow in soil that's legally mine. 6 weeks after I moved out, something strange happened. Linda's house, the house I paid for, was listed for sale. It popped up on Zillow one morning while I was sipping coffee in my new apartment. 3 beds, 2 baths, $829,000. Photos of my kitchen, my landscaping, my light fixtures. They hadn't changed a thing. Just took cleaner photos and upped the price by $230,000. My stomach turned. The first thing I thought was, they're cashing out. The second thing, the running. I called Erin immediately. She'd already seen the listing. They're trying to sell it fast, probably before the market dips again, but they can't close without you. I frowned. Why not? You're on the title now, she reminded me. Your signature is required for transfer of ownership, unless you voluntarily quitclaim your portion, which we are absolutely not doing. I leaned back in my chair, suddenly calm. Then let them come to me. 2 days later, Connor called. I let it go to voicemail. Then came the email. Subject line: "Can we please talk about the house?" I didn't respond. That afternoon, Erin received a formal request from their real estate attorney offering me $85,000 to sign off and expedite the sale. Erin laughed out loud. 85? Honey, you already got that in equity the moment we added you to the deed. If they want out, it's gonna cost them. We countered $172,000, which included my documented investment, appreciation value, and legal costs. Take it or leave it. They stalled, dragged their feet, tried to renegotiate. Then the house sat on the market for 19 days, then 27, then 31. That's when I got another message from a name I didn't expect. Connor's cousin, Madison. "Just wanted to let you know your name's coming up at every family dinner. You're not the villain they thought. People are actually impressed. My mom said, well, at least she didn't just let them steamroll her." I didn't need their approval, but it felt damn good to know they finally saw the truth. On day 34, the offer came through. Full payment, wire transfer. $172,000 deposited directly into my foundation account. No strings, no NDA this time. Just clean paperwork and a long overdue "we acknowledge your legal interest in the property" letter signed by Linda herself. Erin texted me when it cleared. "You just got the last word and the last dollar." I took myself out to dinner that night, alone. Ordered the $56 steak, the good wine, sat by the window and watched traffic drift by on Colorado Boulevard. No date, no anxiety, no fake smiles or fake gratitude. Just me. And I realized something. This whole nightmare had started because I wanted a home with someone. But in the end, I had to fight like hell just to not be erased. And now I had more than a home. I had a clean slate, a full account, and a story no one could ever take away from me. About a month later, I bumped into Connor at a farmer's market in Highland Park. He was walking with some woman, tall, tan, probably early 30s. She looked like the kind of person who put coconut oil in her smoothie and still somehow smelt like vanilla. He froze when he saw me. She didn't recognize me at all. I gave him a small smile and walked past without saying a word. I didn't need him to feel small. I didn't need to make a scene. He knew who I was. He knew what I did. And I had already taken back what mattered most: my power. 2 weeks after that, I got a letter in the mail. From Linda. I stood there in my kitchen holding the envelope, debating whether to burn it or frame it. Curiosity won. Inside was a typed 1-page note. "I regret how things unfolded between us. I made choices based on fear, of loss, of control, of my son being hurt. I see now that those choices hurt you far more. I don't expect forgiveness, but I do want you to know you were right. I was wrong." No apology. Not really. But enough.
I folded the letter and tucked it behind the title deed copy in my filing cabinet. Not to hold on to anger, just to remember that even the most self-righteous people eventually see what they've done when forced to look at it in court-ordered ink. By summer, I had made my next move. I applied for a pre-approval on a condo in Silver Lake. 2-bed, 1.5 bath, big balcony, French doors in the master. The lender asked, "Are you buying a loan?" I smiled. Yes, just me. When the documents came through, I opened the file and saw my name. Jenna Morales, sole owner. I cried. Not because it was emotional, but because it was mine. Not borrowed, not shared, not granted with conditions. Mine. I moved into my new place on a Thursday morning. No fanfare, no moving crew, just me, a friend from work with a truck, and a few boxes labeled kitchen, books, and peace. The Silver Lake condo wasn't fancy, not like the Eagle Rock house had been, but every inch of it felt safe. The walls were freshly painted, the hardwood floors creaked in the corners, the balcony overlooked a row of trees that turned gold in October. And for the first time in a long time, I didn't feel like I was trespassing in my own life. A few weeks later, I got a message from a reporter. She said she'd heard about my case through court filings and public records. She was doing a piece on women navigating real estate betrayal. Her words, not mine. Asked if I'd be willing to talk. I hesitated. At first, I wanted to say no. I didn't want to be a symbol. I didn't want to relive every sharp moment for a clickbait headline. But then I thought, how many women are out there right now doing what I did? Handing over money, trusting blindly, getting erased in contracts and conversations. So I said yes. I told her everything, not the emotional version, the numbers, the paper trail, the quiet red flags. The day I found out a house I had funded wasn't legally mine. Her article came out 3 weeks later. It was titled, "She Paid for the House. His Mom Put It in Her Name." It went viral. Emails flooded my inbox. Women thanking me, sharing similar stories, asking for my lawyer's name. One said she read the article in her car during lunch break and cried into her fries. Erin called me that night. "You're a cautionary tale now," she teased, "but also a blueprint." I wasn't mad about that. Sometimes the only way to make peace with what you survived is to show others how to survive it too. And just when I thought it was all behind me, Connor showed up one last time. I came home from work one evening and found him sitting on the steps outside my building. He looked thinner, or maybe just smaller. I didn't invite him in. "What are you doing here?" I asked, keeping my distance. He stood, hands in his pockets. "I saw the article." I raised an eyebrow. "Didn't think you read women-centered journalism." He almost smiled, then didn't. "I deserved all of it," he said. "Every word. And for what it's worth, I'm sorry. Not just for what I did, for what I didn't do." I didn't say anything. He continued. "I saw the house listed as sold. Looks like you did well." "I did," I said simply, "and I reinvested it into something that belongs to me." He nodded, looked down at the ground, then back at me. "I don't expect you to forgive me, but I wanted to say thank you." I laughed once. "For what?" "For not just disappearing, for not letting her win, for showing me who I really was. I studied him. You didn't need me to show you that, Connor. You just needed me to lose first. He blinked, swallowed. Goodbye, Jenna. Goodbye. He walked away without looking back, and I didn't feel a single thing. I started dating again, slowly. Not to replace anyone, just to prove to myself that trust could be rebuilt, with bricks, not bandages. The first man I met brought coffee on our first date and asked who handled my mortgage. When I said me, he smiled. Smart, he said. Keep it that way. I think I will. Last month, I planted a little rosemary bush in a terracotta pot on my balcony. It's growing strong, reaching toward the sun like it has no memory of where it came from. And neither do I, not in the way that hurts, anyway. Now, I don't tell this story with shame. I tell it like a chapter, one where I lost everything I thought I wanted and got everything I actually needed. Because the truth is, sometimes the people closest to you will write you out of the contract. They'll silence you, minimize you, move you out of the picture. But if you pay attention, if you document, if you stand your ground, you can write yourself back in. Stronger, sharper, fully notarized. And this time, in bold print.